While we wait for others to join in, I would like to play the Bangalore perishable cargo video on the screen. We at Bangalore Airport are honored to maintain our position as the top airport for perishable cargo for the third year in a row. We are thrilled to have surpassed our previous accomplishments with the support and collaboration of our stakeholders and partners. From field to feast, we have got our perishable logistics covered. Please watch this small video.
In the perishable business, every second counts.
Every day is a high-stakes game for every one of our customers.
72 hours are all we have from the moment baby corn is harvested in Bangalore till it's consumed in London.
To keep baby corn fresh over 8,000 kilometers, it takes a number of moving parts working in perfect synchronization.
To extend the life of a perishable like baby corn, we need to get it into cold storage as soon as possible once it's harvested. But before that, baby corn must go through a rigorous quality check, grading and sorting process.
When a perishable shipment arrives here at BLR Cargo, it first goes to the truck docks, and where the truck is accepted and the weight volume checks happen. We have a series of statutory customs and other clearances which also happen. And depending upon the integrity of the cold chain, it can either go almost immediately to the flight, or it gets stored in our cold facilities and then moves to the flight.
In 2001, Namdhari Fresh started with a weekly shipment of 700 kgs of baby corn export to the UK. Back then, we faced many challenges. The main challenge was to understand and manage the cold chain.
I think the fundamental difference between a perishable and, say, for instance, a television is the fact that these are exceptionally temperature sensitive, and the integrity of that cold chain has to be maintained at all times. So from our perspective, we need to make sure that they are in that cold chain process completely from end to end. They have to be handled exceptionally delicately. And as it goes through each of these processes, we have to make sure that there's no breakage in that cold chain as it makes its way from the front of the terminal all the way to the aircraft. And that's our duty.
Today, if you walk into any leading supermarket in the UK and pick up a packet of baby corn, there is a very high chance that it came from Namdhari's. On every shipment that leaves here rides the hope of an entire community, including the contract farmers we source from and the women employees who work with us. Every member of this community takes pride in the fact that we are feeding the world, and we look forward to taking what we grow here on even longer journeys.
I think it's very similar to a pit crew where everything has to come together just perfectly in order to make sure that we can export that cargo absolutely at the right time to the right place. And this has meant that we've become the busiest airport in India as far as perishable exports go. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that we've done it not just with the staff here at BIAL Airport and BLR Cargo, but the wider cargo ecosystem here, which involves our cargo terminal operators, all of our regulatory agencies, our partners. It's a testament to all of their hard work over the course of the last few years that we've achieved this. And hopefully this sets us up really well for the course of the next few years, where I think we need to build on this and continue to remain India's preeminent perishable export cargo airport.
And that's how we have been safeguarding freshness at Bangalore Cargo. We now proceed to our second business session of the day, key trends, challenges, and opportunities for air cargo sector. The session is sponsored by Menzies Aviation. Entering into Indian air cargo industry as a global leader in ground handling in 2008, Menzies Aviation has been pioneering introducing several innovations in cargo terminal operations, specifically in safe operations, real-time data capture, barcode integration, and best IT practices, to name a few. Operating the Cargo Terminal 1 at Kempegowda International Airport through a joint venture with BIAL, Menzies Aviation Bangalore, brings business session 2 to you, key trends, challenges, and opportunities for the air cargo sector. The session is moderated by Ms. Reshma Zahir, Chief Operating Officer, TT Logistics and Cargo Private Limited. Reshma Zahir is a seasonal professional with 3 decades of unparalleled expertise in the air cargo industry. Her career spans key domains such as strategy, business development, and the successful execution of diverse corporate growth and realignment initiatives. Overall, over the past 14 years, Reshma has steered TT Logistics to new heights, playing a pivotal role in expanding and consolidating the GSSA business. Before taking the helm of TT Logistics, Reshma had several key positions with a major European airline, including spearheading global account sales in Asia Pacific and later in Middle East, Africa, and South Asia. This global experience has equipped her with a nuanced understanding of diverse markets, fostering adaptability and innovation. Over to you, Reshma.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to what is infamously known as the graveyard session. I've been asked to mention this by the president of ACFI, that if there are any gentle snores heard at any of the tables, we request neighbors to give a gentle nudge to wake up people. We will do our best, my panelists and I, to make sure the session is as engaging and informative, enough to keep you all awake. I do know we've got 59 minutes, 30 seconds, the clock is ticking. I've been asked to try and wrap up in 55 minutes. I also have a very interesting thought experiment at the end of the session, so I hope we have time to run through it, but if we don't, I'm going to save that for another day. And I know I've got Satish and his session after mine, so that's going to be absolutely scintillating too. So if you do fall asleep in my session, Satish is going to wake you up. A huge thank you to ACFI, Fletcher, Yash, everyone for inviting me. I'm absolutely honored and privileged to be moderating this session. I'd like to quickly start by introducing my panel. First up, Mr. Sunil Awari, Senior Vice President at Namdhari, a food technologist. Sunil graduated from VN MKV, Parbhani, Maharashtra, and has 35 years of experience with various leading food processing, dairy, and agricultural companies. For the past 21 years, Sunil has been with Namdhari Foods. You would have seen him on the BLR cargo video as well, exporting fruits and vegetables across the world. Extremely well-traveled, Sunil has participated in several national and international workshops and seminars as a panelist, and we are extremely honored to have him join us. Thank you, Sunil. Please. I'd next like to call upon Mr. Krishnan, a stalwart of our industry and partner in Natesa Iyer, a company founded in 1919. A third-generation logistician, Mr. Krishnan is a postgraduate from the Madras Christian College and also past president of ACFI and trustee of the Madras Port Trust for 2 terms. Mr. Krishnan continues to be on the advisory committee of ACFI, Chennai Airport and Customs. He is also associated with the University of Madras and the Indian Maritime University. An absolute pleasure to have you here with us, Mr. Krishnan. Welcome, sir. Our next panelist is Kamesh Peri, CEO at Celebi Delhi Cargo, with 30 years of experience in the aviation industry across several geographies spanning South Asia, Europe, Africa, and North America. Kamesh worked with Lufthansa Cargo and Menzies Aviation. A graduate from Delhi University, Kamesh holds an MBA from Ashbridge Executive Education. Kamesh has hands-on experience in every aspect of the cargo business, including strategic planning, business development, sales execution, and finance. Thank you for joining us today, Kamesh. Bobban Jose is the Chief Operating Officer at Air India SATS, responsible for managing the ground and cargo handling operations of 5 AI SATS stations, including Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Mangalore, and Trivandrum. A postgraduate in international business, Bobban started his career with Jet Airways in 2003, followed by Singapore Airlines. Bobban joined AI SATS in 2015, and in his 20 years of experience, he has gathered expertise in station management, ground and cargo operations management, and business development and sales. Welcome, Bobban. We also have joining us on the panel Ashish Kumar, Chief Commercial Officer at GMR Hyderabad International Airport. Since 2007, Ashish has been a driving force at GMR Delhi and Hyderabad airports, playing a pivotal role in shaping the organization's trajectory. Currently serving as the mastermind behind route development, cargo business, and aero concessions, Ashish oversees a substantial revenue stream of approximately $150 million. He holds a postgraduate degree in sales and marketing from NIS Delhi and has also honed his expertise through management programs from premier institutions like IIM Ahmedabad and MDI Gurgaon. Welcome, Ashish. And now, before we start, some rules. Actually, quite like the Fight Club, there are no rules here. However, as the audience, please feel free to ask questions and participate as we go through. Raise your hand so that I can see you or one of my panelists can see you and we can take your question there and then. We will try to have time for question and answers after the session, but please don't let that stop you. If there is a burning point you need to make or a question you need to ask, please do ask away. We do want this to be as interactive as possible so that everyone stays awake and energized. Our topic, Key Trends, Challenges, and Opportunities in Air Cargo, is vast, nuanced, and ever-changing. We could have an entire summit, an entire day dedicated to it, but we will do our best to encapsulate as much as we can in the next 1 hour. I'm just going to quickly just give some context. What we heard in the earlier sessions, the air cargo market for South India is growing at a rate faster than the national average, with some estimates a CAGR of 7 to 10% in the next few years, putting South India's projected contribution to the national tonnage in excess of 35% by 2030. Airports from South India contribute close to 30% of India's air cargo total tonnage and contribute close to 60% of India's perishable air exports. With that data point in mind, there is no one better to start our session than Sunil, Senior Vice President from Namdhari Fresh. I'm going to just take a seat because standing for 1 hour is going to be difficult. Okay, so Sunil, just to start us off, as a consumer, that's working, okay. As a consumer of air cargo and someone who has an insight to a certain extent on what's going to happen, at least in your industry, over the next 3 to 6 months from a forecast perspective, what trends do you see emerging in the air cargo industry?
Yeah. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Hope this session will keep all of us awake, or the opportunities will definitely make it. As you know, if you see people of my generation or all of us few years this side or that side, we have been taught from our childhood that the agriculture is a backbone of our economy, because we have vast land available, different agroclimatic conditions. But up till now, even though I am a professional from same area, I was not able to understand exactly what it means. That is now going to happen. The day has come that agriculture is going to be really a backbone of Indian economy, because the potential or growth potential is so much. There had been some good and bad things happen on this globe, which are largely falling in favor of India's agricultural growth. And why I am saying this is, if you see on the world map, in terms of agricultural exports, specifically for fresh fruits and vegetables, India was lagging much behind, even though we have a lot of land, knowledge, lot of agricultural universities, but still we are lagging because of the lack of some of the things. Plus, our competitors has a good head start and they were much ahead of us. Thankfully, countries like, if you see, Egypt is a big competitor for us. Then if you go to Southeast Asia, Thailand, but because of some reason they are facing a lot of problem, big window is opening and open for Indian agricultural exports. Even African countries have their own problems. So this is the time our country should encash this opportunity. And if you see where the opportunity can be cashed, if you see the mainland, we have explored a lot, we exploited a lot, and now if you go and see in the northeast, there is a lot of land which can practically be called as a virgin, and which can even enable us to go for organic or semi-organic production. There is a potential. So now and there the role of air cargo transfer comes. This is a great potential coming up from there, and I feel we must focus at there. The bottleneck there is, the terrain is very difficult. Transferring by road is merely impossible because of the time taken and seasonal problems. So air cargo transfer is the best way, and I think we must focus at that side. That is going to be a game changer. Apart from this, another important trend emerging in this area is the fruit crops. A lot of fruits like mangoes are going deliciously to worldwide, but these mangoes don't travel by sea. So mangoes can go by air only. So I feel what is required now is the network of freighters traveling nationally and internationally. So we cannot live with passenger aircrafts or narrow-bodied aircrafts. We need now freighters hopping, say, from Guwahati, from Gangtok, several places, and coming to the mainland from where we can move it to the customers. Even Gulf market is emerging as a big market for us. So that is what I think to start with, I will.
Thank you so much. You have set the tone, Sunil, for the rest of our session.
Yeah.
And I'd like to now move on to Bobban. Bobban, as CEO Air India SATS, you obviously handle a significant portion of the business from South India, especially the perishables. Could you talk a little to what Sunil has mentioned about freighters and capacity, and is there any trend that you're noticing around that, around capacity?
Thank you, Reshma. First of all, thank you, Yash and Fletcher, for having me here, ACFI team. Just to set the context side, when you talk about capacity, it's two segments. One is from the flight, the carrier's capacity. Another thing is the infrastructure that we have, in our airports all across. So just to give you some perspective, the statistics, we did about 3.3 million metric tons of cargo in 2022-23. And this year, we are expecting to close at about 3.33 million, which is about 6% increase compared to last year. the main contributors are basically, the carriers with belly hold capacity, whether it's narrow body or wide body, and also the freighters. Now, and also the infrastructure that we have across all airports under the CTOs. Now, let's say when we talk about the capacity that we have, we have about 6.5, as per the Indian airport infrastructure statistics, we have about 6.5 million metric tons of capacity that we have at this point of time. But then if you see, as I mentioned earlier, we did about 3.33. So it's roughly about 50%. So why so? If you see, we have key airports, the key metro stations, the Tier 1 cities, right from Delhi to Bombay to Bangalore to Hyderabad and Chennai. These key airports are actually doing about 64% of domestic cargo and is about 75 to 80% of international cargo. So then what happens on the other airports? Many people have shared information here saying that we have a lot of airports. Even South itself is about 16 airports. So I think we need to, other airports need to work together, feed like a feeder service. So what happens is this will help the hub station, the so-called hub station or upcoming hub stations to fill in more capacity, introduce more freighters and all this. And in terms of the airlines, when you talk about the capacity utilization perspective, I feel we have got what we wanted, during COVID. Cargo got the utmost importance. So I think earlier days, in our freighter days, when Singapore Airlines Cargo, we talk about notional yield, notional weight, all this for the unitized cargo. Now I could see, I'm sure Keku will agree with me, now we could see that, the interest that our domestic airlines are actually taking for each and every kilo of cargo, each and every inch space inside the aircraft. There are substantial number of resources positioned at the airport to monitor the cargo movement and everything. But to be specific to what Mr. Sunil said, yes, we definitely need more capacity. Having said that, there is underutilization of the overall capacity, but then I think we need to really do it. On a south perspective, since the topic, the event heading also on the south connecting horizons, I think on a south side, we are doing fairly well. Not only the Tier 1 cities, it's also about the secondary station as well. I heard that Trivandrum is going to have a substantial enhancement plan in line with the Vizhinjam Airport, which is coming in. Mangalore Airport has recently introduced another 2,000 square meter, which can cater about 9,000 metric tons of cargo. Hyderabad is going to come up with doubling the capacity. Chennai has plans. Bangalore for sure. At this point of time, I think the targeting is about 1 million plus. Just 500,000 tons alone for international cargo, another 500,000 tons for domestic cargo, and then close to about 80,000 for perishable cargo. So I would say that our airports are really focused. If you see, there are a lot of initiatives started coming from the airport side. Now we are also part of it. We could see logistics park coming up. We could see consolidation center we are actually planning. So it's very important that these kind of infrastructure has to be in place. So as you rightly said, it is definitely required, and we look forward, because we all set for a target for the next few years. To achieve there, we definitely need better infrastructure and capacity.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I wanting to move on to Kamesh. Kamesh, what according to you is another trend that may be emerging in air cargo that we should be aware of and focused on?
Thanks, Rishma. It's nice to be back in my home city of Bangalore, and great to be with all of you after a long time. And another pleasant surprise for me is the session sponsor is actually the company that I set up 18 years back in India. So it's quite happy for me to see that I am part of a session which is actually being sponsored by my ex-company. So coming to your question, Reshma, air cargo business in general is going through a very transformative change. And it's more to do with the fact that there are a lot of geopolitical changes that are taking place, and air cargo as an industry is not separated from what happens on the micro front. We see a lot of challenges that are taking place around the world, whether that be the COVID crisis, the Russia war, whether it is to do with the recent Palestinian or the Red Sea crisis that we know of recent times. So all of these things have a direct impact. And also what we see is there's a shift in terms of the global preferences when it comes to supply chain. We all know China was at the forefront of all logistics and supply chain solutions, but that position of dominance seems to be sliding away from China, moving to other markets. So what we see in terms of changes is many things which are of a transformative nature. What it also tells us is that the time has come for organizations who are in the supply chain, in the air cargo business, to recalibrate their approach, to look at what the past practices were, what is it to be done now, and accordingly prepare for the future. What's also important to consider is some of the key themes that we see in other industries, let's say automation, let's say sustainability, these and technology-driven solutions. These were things which were not so much well talked about when it came to air cargo business. So we were in the traditional operations of bringing in the cargo at origin, moving it, and having it delivered at the destination. A lot of it was based on a lot of traditional processes, but that's changing, because we also hear the key words like automation, digitization, and also advanced technologies like blockchain, artificial intelligence, and a couple of other initiatives which are quite prominent in other industries, now starting to be recognized in air cargo. So we also, coming closer to home, we also look at the special focus the government has got in terms of air cargo as a sector. So there's a lot of recognition, probably thanks to what happened during the COVID times, when the air cargo as an industry came together as a lifeline to make sure the relief material in this was transported, was brought into the country, and later on we were in a position to also export some of the homegrown critical PPE kits that were being produced to other parts of the world. So there is a certain recognition within the government corridors that cargo in itself has a special role to play in the overall aviation ecosystem. That being the case, what we see is there is a greater push from the government side in terms of developing suitable infrastructure. And for the first time, the government is not just restricting itself to talking about infrastructure in the metro cities. It's also talking about the tier 2, tier 3 cities. It's looking at multimodal connectivity. It's looking at a comprehensive policy, what we call the national logistics policy. So there are a lot of initiatives within the country which are also taking place. There's a huge recognition about the potential of cargo. And what is also being recognized, or what is also being considered as a driver to the air cargo growth, is going to be the invent of new products. I mean, we heard about this in the recent years, but now we hear more about them, and the key one is e-commerce. We heard a bit about it in the morning, about the potential that e-commerce has got. And once again, thanks to COVID, the realization that e-commerce has a critical role to play in the future air cargo business. What it tells us is that the way the business is going to be done in the future is going to be a lot different, because the e-commerce as a product is quite different than the traditional air cargo product. It requires a lot of efficiency, it needs consistency, speed, and most important, data transparency. So these are the things, when they are brought on board as a requirement of the product, it would fundamentally change the way air cargo as a product is being handled handled over the years and what it would need to be done in the future. So a lot of these things, and not to forget one other topic that is going around in the aviation circles is about sustainability. So we hear a lot about sustainability becoming a de facto requirement. May that be from the IATA sites, which is talking about net zero carbon emission by 2050, and our own Ministry of Civil Aviation is talking about having all the Indian airports net zero carbon by 2030. So we look at individual organizations within the industry also taking up sustainability as a boardroom topic and looking at areas on how they can work and contribute towards sustainable goals. So these are some of the trends and some of the developments that we see that are taking place in our industry, and there's a lot that is going to be required to be done to make these things move forward. And I'm sure there are a lot of issues around it that we would possibly have an opportunity to talk about later in the session today.
Yes, absolutely. I think lots of great points there, Kamesh. I mean, we do have the second half where we will touch briefly on some of the challenges and opportunities related to the trends that you've talked about. Mr. Krishnan, if I may come to you, just taking on from what Kamesh talked about, automation and digitalization. Could you maybe weigh in on some of the trends that you're seeing in that sphere?
Let me start off with a line of poetry.
Yes, please. Wonderful.
And most of you all would be familiar with the name T.S. Eliot,
Yes.
greatest of the last century's poem. And he begins the poem in a very interesting way. He says, "In my beginning is my end." This is a direct take on the Bible where it says, "In my end is my beginning," the rebirth, the death and the rebirth. But here he says, "In my beginning is my end." Very significant, a lot of interpretations, and I wish to interpret it for our trade. Again, Alice in Wonderland has a very famous line, "You need to keep running to stay in the same place." That's the world today. And to help me to keep running and not just stay in the same place, but to move forward, my biggest helper, like the stick that I used to walk, is technology.
Said.
It's technology. It has given me the impetus. Once again, as Govind made a subtle distinction between knowledge and skill, automation and technology are not one and the same. We mistake, very often we mix one for the other. Automation and technology is a process. Automation is an end result. Technology is a process which evolves over time. It is never at the same place. It is moving forward. And as Mr. Kamesh says, as air cargo, we are in a world of contrast. Because, not forget, India is the country which has today adopted 98% of the e-way bill. And still India is a country which requires a transshipment application to shift cargo from one point to another, transiting to a third point. This is the contrast that we face. This is the reality of life. And this is where the future lies, is to resolve these contrasts. Resolving this contrast is not going to happen through humans. Resolving these contrasts would happen only with technology-driven tools. Let us take our own regulator, the customs, the changes that has happened when it became faceless. In the income tax, when it became faceless. Yes, there are glitches. I'm not saying it's a perfect world. No world is perfect. This world is imperfect. But the efficiency, you've seen the release times that has been given by. What is the drop in the release times we have witnessed? And in the ease of doing business on an international scale, India was able to climb up purely because of adopting digital technology and adopting it robust. Having said that, in India, for regulatory compliance, especially on the digital platform, the common man is far behind the actual government regulator. We have not accepted first, nor have we adopted robustly to stay ahead, say that I need this, I need this, I need this. Because one of the greatest challenges technology poses for the older generation is to make them unlearn their old prejudices, the old practices, the old processes, the old procedures. What does technology do? Technology democratizes information. Information is not for select few. Technology helps me in making things granular. And today you look at the SKU, units in export, because of instead of mass production, I'm going into extremely fine customization, which means my SKU units are going to blow up, a factor of 10. This is what technology as a promise holds for me, digital technology, and it is this that is going to take us to the Vikasit Bharat, as was mentioned yesterday by the minister. I leave it there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And really well said. I think there have been so many, nuggets and pearls of wisdom that have got noted down in my notebook. I've been writing furiously. I mean, what you said, what Mr. Govindarajan said, there's such a difference between knowledge and skill, and how do we differentiate and teach that, and what you said about technology and automation, I think absolutely spot on. Ashish, I'll come to you now. Just maybe developing a little more on what Mr. Krishnan says, and I know digitalization, digital initiatives, technology and all has been a buzzword. What trends are you seeing, or that you would, I'd be interested in your inputs there.
Hey, thanks Rishma, and thanks Bangalore and the ACFI for inviting me here. So I think just to give a little background about myself, I worked in strategy earlier, and I think Manish and some other colleagues here have also worked in strategy, and we worked with something called a pestle to begin with. And I thought maybe I'll do a kind of a pestle more from an environment scan perspective globally. But in the morning session, which was taken by Dhruv, I think most of the data points were already covered. And then the same thing I kind of tried to tweak as to what I can talk about, but I think Kamesh and me on the chat GPT had the same output, so what he said was what I got. So let me see what I can do. But see, in the industry that even other speakers have mentioned, which is quite closely connected to what happens in the world, we need to be very, very cognizant of what is transpiring and what is changing, and changing at a very fast pace. And fortunately, as an industry, we have been very agile. But we'll have to keep looking at what are the changes happening, geopolitical changes, what's happened in US, what's happened in Europe in terms of economies. But fortunately, they are being better. Last quarter has been better for air cargo globally, and for India as well. Supply chain issues still persist with China, and India has an opportunity, as we know, from a China +1 positioning. But also what's happening is the geopolitical issues that have emerged. Now for some sectors, it's a threat, but some sectors, it's a positive. So what happened in Red Sea, all of a sudden you've seen the yields for air cargo go up, the demand go up. But will there be a stickiness, or can, as an industry, we amplify that stickiness of the supply chain, let's say, de-risking for the manufacturers, is what we as an industry should do. We as an industry in air cargo can never compete on pricing with ocean. But this de-risking of the supply chains, some value that we bring from end to end, the technologies that we can use, is something that we should really look at. Now, just a couple of days back, I was reading somewhere that this year, that's FY, or the calendar year 24, there's going to be elections across the world in almost 65 nations, which is going to impact 50% of the global population. And imagine what's happening across the world in terms of polarization, in terms of protectionism in the governments. And will that have an impact on what kind of trade channels, what kind of new geopolitical situations that emerge? Is there a likely flashpoint of some other kind of a small event happening somewhere? Because everything has a ripple effect on air cargo, whether it's positive or negative. We've seen it in COVID, we've seen it with Red Sea, we may see it with some smaller flashpoints happening here and there. But that's more on the global context. But yes, like we saw in the morning with some data, I think India is doing pretty well. We are more stable, both politically, economically, we are growing very strong. Our e-commerce is very strong. But what we need to do as an industry, again, is to look at the customer side of it, like Namdhari, like e-commerce customers. So as a customer, are we adding value to the end customer? It's not to just that shipment, but can we add value to the customer who is buying from e-commerce so that he tends to get that confidence to buy more, which eventually will add value to our air cargo industry. So that's very important for us to understand the customer right from the start, right from that click of the button when you order the item on whether Flipkart or Amazon, to the point that it gets delivered to his residence. We have a role to play. And that is where a lot of technology and a lot of processes we need to define. And coming to, obviously, the context of South India, we all have talked about it a lot. We are almost 35% of the GDP just in 5 states out of the 28 states plus the 8 union territories. So we are contributing a lot. If you look at the intellectual wealth, the literacy rates, if you look at the industries being developed, whether it's EV, automobiles, textiles, pharma, perishables, it's all there. And that's where the value can be generated. And while there's been kind of a status quo which Mr. Govindarajan had mentioned, that's always 1%, 2% on volumes and maybe 30% on 35% on value. Is there a slight increase that we can look at? Even a slight increase will add value to us, because, and that can only happen if we don't compete with shipping on pricing or other modes, because there's a lot of other modes going to be kind of strengthened, be it railways, be it roadways, all the schemes that India is bringing, the government is pushing on. So can we add value to the whole stream? So, yeah.
No, I'm on board with that, and I think that's where we make the difference, is the value addition, and what Mr. Krishnan also alluded to about how do we use technology, how are we using that automation, what is it giving us that advantage. I think this entire day we've been hearing a lot about opportunities. I think the slides put up by Dhruv were quite mind-blowing. I was really impressed by the kind of data that came through. Of course, I'm just going to come back to you, Sunil, we've got about 23 minutes left, so I just want to come to the second part. If you could tell me what you believe are, from a shipper's perspective, someone who's a consumer of air cargo, what do you think are 2 challenges that you see for our industry, and what in your view are 2 opportunities that you foresee? What do you think is the 2 major challenges facing air cargo?
Yeah. So, thanks. Both the things I would see as an opportunity. One is an opportunity, and the other one is a opportunity for improvement. So, as a challenge, if you see, as everywhere we see, if we want to check the progress, time is an important unit which is applied. So time has to be reduced. So if my cargo is going to take off tomorrow 6 o'clock, why I need to deliver my cargo today at 9 o'clock to your doorstep? So this is just a small example. Although I'm very thankful to Bangalore airport professionals, it is one of the best airport, and I would give my wholehearted compliments on behalf of my organization on personal level. Also, it has come out well, because I am seeing last 21 years growth here happen. But what we expect is, as this forum is a big, there has to be some working towards how we can reduce that we pack our cargo like a baby, and when we hand over our cargo to airport or for further processing, airports or the infrastructure or the professional team there has to work on gaining exporters' confidence that the way we handle cargo, same way it will be taken care here. Because sometimes we face a lot of issues. Another important thing is there is a variation. I would see this in three angles or through three windows. One is operational, second one is technical, third one is a commercial. So all three sides, if we see, there has to be uniformity across the India. For passengers, the processes are same. Then for cargo, why not? Because some of the airports, if you see, I won't take the name, but I would say our vehicle has to go to the airport about 10 to 12 hours before. The process won't end there. The vehicle has to wait till the aircraft takes off. So our vehicle gets stuck there, because if there is any offloading or anything, your vehicle has to go. So why we can't work together and bring uniformity in the operations, and that is a big pain point for exporters. Apart from this, yes, as I said, we will see through three windows. So technically you have got infrastructure, but operationally, is your team capable, or rather in better words, is your team trained to handle? So I think there is a necessity of training to the handling staff also technically, because the perishables are different types, their temperature regimes are different. So I would briefly give one small story kind of things, which is very brief, that one gentleman, after finishing his journey on earth, being a good person, was shifted to heaven, and few years he was there and he was provided all the amenities and he enjoyed. But the hell building was just in front of him, and he saw there has been a lot of renovation and good things happened there, and he was very much attracted seeing the improvements in hell. This fellow with monotonous life in heaven was fed up, and he decided, let us go to the hell now for a change. And he requested the administrator. He warned, but still he was adamant, and he, after seeing that hell, very beautiful windows, there are people, good people serving there, all kinds of drinks, food, and all amenities available. He went for the change. As he went to hell on his demand, immediately after entering into the hell, the people came and straight away asked him a choice: which oil would you like you to be deep fried by us? So this fellow got upside down. Baba, what is this? I saw a lot of good things are there, and you are now trying to torture me. He said, Baba, that was our sales and marketing division. The actual operations are happening here. So we don't want our cargo to, because it happened with me with, it's based on my experience that we went to some airports and we faced this kind of problems, that there were no proper temperature monitoring, although they were not having knowledge of cold stores and cold store operating. So these are the things, they are small things, but these are very important things, I feel. Another important point is, although we mutually discussed that we will not go touch the commercial thing, but I will just lightly pass through it. Why there should not be a same handling charges at all the airports? Because if perishables like we say we sell tarkari, so one paisa matters for us. So some airports have a different regime of charges, other airports. So because of that, technically we face a lot of difficulties in quoting prices to our customers because one rupee matters. So I feel that also, those kind of things also should be looked at. I think.
Thank you.
Stop here, yeah.
Sunil, that was excellent. And with that, we do have to come to the end of our session. I've been told the timer's wrong, and I'm glad I kept referring to it, so someone reminded me. I love the glass half full approach you have as opposed to glass half empty, and I think that's for all our panelists. There are the challenges that we spoke about, that Sunil mentioned, uniformity of processes, recognizing that time is money for us in air cargo, along with all the other challenges that we had, the geopolitical situation, technology, automation, all of that. I think with the flip side, each challenge that we've talked about and all the trends that we've talked about, there are tremendous opportunities for us in air cargo to optimize. And with, of course, the world-class infrastructure that our South Indian airports have, I'm very confident that we will achieve the, 35 to 50% that the South Indian airports are hoping to achieve by 2030. With that, I would like to say a big thank you to my panelists. Thank you for your time and for being so generous with your insights. I'd also like to give a huge shout out to the wonderful ACFI team, Yash, Fletcher, Satya, everyone. Thank you for organizing today. It is really a brilliant event. And to the audience, thank you for your patience and for not falling asleep. Thank you all. Thank you.
I just had to add one word.
Yes, please, sir.
The world of transportation is not just air transportation. An air cargo professional needs to develop domain of other modes of transport if you have to shine yourself in the future. Unfortunately, this is a huge challenge in India.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Reshma. Thank you, panelists. Yeah, the challenges will always remain, but we'll always keep on finding solutions. Thank you, panelists, for giving us the insight. May I request Mr. Anil Kumar, Chief Executive Officer, MABPL, to felicitate the moderator and speak